Good morning. Welcome to Marketing Over Coffee. I'm John Wall.
I'm Christopher Penn.
And we're back after the holidays here. It's been, it seems like it's been forever since we've kicked stuff around. So we've got a list of exciting stuff today here. Because the biggest one is Facebook mind control. We have to start with that since we've been big friends of Facebook forever.
Oh yeah. So I guess if you have been living under a rock, I guess the short version is Facebook conducted behavioral control experiments on users for extended period of time. 663,000 people were blindly subjected to newsfeed algorithm changes intended to manipulate their emotions and to make them feel less or more sad, to try and see if you could create an emotional contagion of some kind for research purposes. And a number of folks have rightly called that it was a ethical violation of pretty much every research policy there is, and it not just A/B testing, because it's not. You're not trying to do calls to action or anything like that. What you're trying to actually do is make people feel differently. So, not the world's most ethical research. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the short version is when you say experimenting on someone without prior knowledge. I mean, it doesn't get any more evil than that. Like, there is, of course, differing degrees, and you can argue that, well, they're like advertising, you could say, is experimenting, but they're just trying to get you to buy a Coke or something like that. Whereas there was some intent. Well, I don't know. We don't know we have no idea what the actual intent is. But there are people who could have been pushed into a more depressed state as a result of this study, and against their own knowledge or understanding of them being manipulated. So it's as evil as it can get. So part of me is like, this is the most heinous thing I've ever seen. But then on the flip side is, if you've listened to us any time at all in the past 3 years, like, why would you expect any less from Facebook? I mean, if there was ever a company whose logo should be the emperor from it would be Facebook. I mean, they've basically, well, and the bigger thing to keep in mind is totally that, Facebook is built for advertisers. Everybody's thinking that as a Facebook user, you're a customer, and you're not. You're the product. You are going through the machine and being worked on and spit out the other end in exchange for money. So, yeah, your best interest does not make it into the at any point.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that you can say in their favor is that they don't actually pretend that they like you.
Yeah, that is true. You know what you're dealing with. And then, they came clean on this, too, even though, everybody's giving them a beating. I mean, this didn't have to slip out. 'Cause I know they already have, like, stuff going on with the federal government, so I'm sure it's still measured. It's not that they thought they were doing the right thing just by being transparent. They had to do it. But yeah, again, it's like horrifying yet not surprising. I guess that would be my
exactly. So, yeah, I mean, the only other thing I think on that front is their other defense was you signed the waiver when you use the terms of service and stuff like that. But a lot of folks have rightly pointed out that there's a difference between implied consent and informed, conscious consent to participate in a research study. They could have saved themselves a huge amount of pain and unhappiness if they just said, "Hey, this is a survey. Do you want to press this like button if you want to opt into it?"
Yeah, to get them on board. Again, though, with all this stuff, that's the problem with this business model at the core. Is like when you start with the offer of, hey, it's awesome and it's free, and then every 6 months you chisel away a little bit more. As soon as Facebook comes along, everybody gives up on MySpace. That's just the nature of this beast. So.
Yep.
Such as it is. I did have, of course, and relating an important post, Facebook making more money. I have a link to that, talking about them. They're basically ad revenues going crazy, and them doing a fine job on that. Yeah, it's just been one thing after another with those guys. How about you had one further down the list, but I want to push it up because it sounds like fun, is the YouTube name and shame.
Yeah, so remember about I guess 2 months ago with the whole net neutrality thing and service providers throttling certain sites, Google had actually published a evaluate your service provider and see how fast or slow your internet connection is, and they had a sort of a name and shame tool that we could check to see, hey, here's alternative companies. Now Google has amped up the war and they are now putting little memos inside the videos themselves. So as you're watching the video, it says, video quality does not look great. You have a slow service provider. Find a different one here. So on the world's most popular video site, they're basically taking pot shots at the companies that are throttling, and good for them because it's their right to do so. It's their videos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I guess, so it seems like every week we talk about this quantum shift, and actually Dave Brown at Mises has been basically heckling me via email about the fact that up in Vermont, near where those guys are, they have that town up there that has gigabit service. It's the same as Google's network too. And I saw another article this week too, just mentioning about. It's interesting in Silicon Valley. There's actually getting to be people kind of jumping on Comcast's back and giving them a hard time, and it's so funny. Part of me is like, oh, that's great, because if there's anybody that's got the leverage maybe to make something happen, that's probably number 2 under DC. But then on the flip side, I'm like, dude, you guys have no idea what the rest of the country is like. You think you got bandwidth to complain about? Obviously, driven from Vermont to New Hampshire anytime recently to try and get service.
Yeah, the thing with these ISPs is that they clearly have absolutely no ability to see beyond the short term, because if they had any sense whatsoever, they would get their houses in order before they push Google, Applesoft, Microsoft, or Facebook to basically become an ISP to say, oh, we've got all this extra fiber we're not using. I mean, Google's getting there with their fiber stuff, but it's still very experimental. But these providers are basically tempting fate to say, Google, if Google jumps in, guess what? You're going out of business.
Yeah, that is true. If there was ever a harbinger of your business model being under attack, I mean, what more do you want than Google gigabit? So. All right. Well, we should mention here, of course, whether you're an occasional scribe, part-time wordsmith, or an acclaimed content creator, writing is a skill that every marketer needs to master. You can turn yourself into a lean, mean writing machine with Marketing Profs University's Marketing Writing Boot Camp. Starting June 12th, these 16 classes are available online 24/7 with one goal in mind: to make you a better marketing writer. You can visit mprofs.com/coffee. Use the promo code coffee when you enroll. That'll save $200 off the price. And so very excited to be working with them again in Q3 here on board. And we of course love that course, and the big thing now coming up on B2B for October is the next big show for those guys. So. Yep.
I'm be doing 2 sessions at that. I'll be doing a Google Analytics workshop. I actually got feedback that last year's workshop was too advanced. It was a 4-hour workshop that I thought it was doing intermediate stuff, because we didn't get into any of the hyper complicated data analysis stuff outside, and the feedback from the attendees was that it went by too fast, which admittedly there's probably a lot of content in there, and it was too advanced. So I'm like, well, wait, what?
Yeah, isn't it? It's such a challenge to try and pack that much. In fact, and we should mention too, I actually attended Oratium, Tamsin Webster's company, their presentation skills, and I've been thinking a lot because of that over the past couple weeks of how, you just can't pack that much data into even a 4-hour session. It just takes people so much mental expense to not only pay attention and just realize what's going on, but then to do the background work too of comprehending everything that's happening. You literally can only get so much stuff out there. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it's funny, you have to roll it back, but at the same time you'll want to give them enough at least understanding of what the advanced things are, so that when you get to them they feel like they're getting their money's worth. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I almost think that they'd be better off, instead of trying to make someone do a 4-hour workshop, just saying, let's record it, here's and you go through it at your own pace. But if if this 4-minute segment here is going to take you 2 hours to figure out, just take it in your own bite-sized chunks, because there's no way. I mean, I remember one section we're looking at multi-channel funnels, and the explanation went by probably really fast, and even though it probably it almost deserves an hour on its own, just in terms of how it works, and it's just one of those things that you can't fit into that much time.
Yeah, exactly. As well, and then then you get into do you give them pre-roll videos to watch and learn, and you're like, yeah, okay, that's great, but now that's just like a ton of additional prep work. It spirals out of control so fast. Let's see. So you had a ComScore on your list. What's the latest there?
So the latest there is that for the first time, I think it was a major milestone. Overall internet traffic has exceeded. On mobile devices has exceeded the desktop. So this has happened. Actually, technically, according to ComScore, happened a little bit earlier this year, but it's a huge shift. I mean, I saw another stat recently saying that if you're looking at your web analytics, approximately 25% of your sites traffic is going to be mobile. If it's less than that, you have a lagging audience. If it's more than that, you have a more advanced audience or a more technically well-equipped audience. But the fact that it's now 50-50 mobile versus desktop means that if mobile isn't 100% of your, if mobile isn't always on your mind in any marketing campaign, you're pretty much doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That's interesting too. That leads into I have a link to AwesomenessTV, and actually DreamWorks TV tied into them as part of that acquisition. But it was just the same kind of shocking thing, the idea of networks actually considering YouTube and online video as the network. These companies actually spinning up and driving views and advertising and everything, and the TV is not part of the equation with that. It's online video is the way people live and where they want to consume the content. So big change. I have to throw onto that one too. Comedians in cars getting coffee, which is also doing very well. Jerry Seinfeld's project there, which aside from the coffee link, I realized it was it has that quotes grassroots ghetto feel to it. They have 3 cams, suction cup mounted in the car and all that. But in a pitch I had seen him actually talking with Dave Letterman, them admitting that it's about 100,000 an episode it takes to get those 20 minutes together. So our budget's slightly less than that per episode.
Exactly. Not surprised.
But very interesting. Let's see. I also have some links to stupid stuff that I'll throw out there. Every once in a while I come across an infographic that's just mind-numbing, so I'll put a link to that. It's just the idea of getting all these pie charts and literally having a lot more questions when you're done than answers. Like, well, what were they really asking? So that's in there. And a link to Lamborghini rides too. Another horrifying one of a guy, a weird, creepy dude who drives around without saying a word and actually gets women to jump into the Lamborghini for a ride.
Okay, that's right up there with this whole potato salad Kickstarter thing.
Yeah. There's another one too that for folks that missed out on that, a guy just went on Kickstarter, said he was going to make potato salad, and from what I've heard, he said he only he put $10 on there, which was about the cost to make the potato salad. But of course, I don't know. At last check, he was at like 40,000 or something like that. Yep. Totally spinning up and out of control. And it's so funny to see. I've seen a bunch of people kind of anger and frustration that there are poor people that need food, yet this dude's getting 40K for
potato salad.
For potato salad, you had to make some potato salad. You can see it's kind of a joke and a meme, yet it's still gathering steam. Yeah, related to that one too is I purchased a coin. I've been following that, and I've heard some interesting stuff. I actually talked to John Federico, my coworker over at Curious. I just assumed it was a normal Kickstarter thing where manufacturing was bogged down, but supposedly there's story of some folks have gaps in their customer agreements, and that if there's fraud committed on through the coin, if the card number is stolen through the coin somehow, the card holder can be liable for that. Because it's it's not on the card, it's outside of the normal card agreement. So that's supposedly what's holding some of this stuff back. I don't know, I have no idea as to the truth of that, but I mean, I do know that I actually Twittered to them directly. I said, hey, what's up? Because they've talked about shipping summer 2014, and the response I got back was like, well, we're going to ramp up manufacturing as soon as the real world testing is done. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So if if manufacturing hasn't ramped up, that's not the kind of thing that's going to turn around in 2 weeks. So,
exactly. It's not happening this summer.
Yeah, this summer is not looking good. And I should backtrack too. I'm just presuming everybody knows Coin too. The idea with Coin is with low-power Bluetooth and some of the new circuitry there, they're actually able to make something that's about the size of it. It is, in fact, I think maybe a little smaller than a credit card that you just load all of your cards onto. And so instead of carrying around, your 12 credit cards, you just have this one. And it has some neat features too, being tied to your phone. Like if it runs off or you leave it at the table, you'd get alerted or texted. It has some neat things, but still some glitches to work out on that. So let's see. Of course, I have to mention too. Also for Q3, we've got What Counts is back on board. We've worked with all the email service providers, and for marketing our coffee, we use What Counts, superior design deliverability and reporting. For MOC listeners, you can get their free white paper, 57 tips to grow your email list, available at www.whatcounts.com/coffee. That's actually get the white paper now, because I think in the next week or so that's going to change over to a different offer or a demo offer. Their Q3 promotion is going to change. And so, it's technically valid right now, but of course, if you're a week behind in listening or whatever, you're going to get whatever the new content is up over there. But again, also thanking them on for Q3. We have actually renewed and full load here for Q3, so very excited about that. Let's see. Oh, Vine loops. That's it. So, how about, are you a Vine user? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you signed up for namespace, but what's your take on Vine?
I signed up for it, and I have published a few videos on it, but I haven't really used it. I don't have a lot of need for 6-second shaky mobile video. I'm not creating content like that. I'm doing a lot more with just straight YouTube these days, just posting stuff on YouTube that's a little bit longer format and stuff. So no, not a lot of Vine work.
Yeah, same boat. I get, it's kind of interesting playing around with it, but nothing that's, haven't found anything that just makes it do all kinds of cool stuff. So the idea with Vine loops is, as Chris mentioned, it's a 6-second loop, and it keeps playing over and over again. And they just introduced a stat where if somebody sits and watches through it, 7 times, the loop count will bump up by 7. So you can see now, you'll see videos that have 3 million loops, 5 million loops, whatever. So a little bit easier to measure the viral nature of stuff. Of course, very easy to spoof right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, open the window and leave it run.
Right. Yeah, there's no proof that somebody even saw more than the first loop. But at least, it's something that kind of they're hoping to drive some, be able to prove the viral nature behind it. And, of course, some big brands getting a ton of loops, so perhaps there's something there. But, yeah, still kind of seeing if that proves itself out. Also on viral video stuff, I have a link to a Gillette video, the history of men's facial hair, which is actually pretty amusing. We'll throw that out there. Gillette, hometown company, have to give them some ink. That's exciting. I also had, I mentioned the Marketing Over Coffee app. I just put that out there because we've had cases where interviews have gone up. And actually, if you have the app, you get early access to it ahead of everybody else. So that's big. I have a link to the book that I'm not writing. Unfortunately, for the past year, I have been on that path. I wanted to do comedy for business. I thought there was a gem. There's something there. There's something worth writing about. And literally, it's been over a year of research now trying to get this going. And I finally have just thrown in the towel. There's no big idea that kind of gelled that was something that like you could read a book about and learn a lot of stuff. So I have the blog post are 10 things that I learned that are pretty interesting points, but just not enough to force somebody to sit through 200 pages worth. So I would love
to like a Kindle single.
Yeah, maybe
like
that would be
99-cent, 15-page article. Enjoy.
Yeah, because there's some interesting things on there. There's interesting points like humor and the power dynamic. Of course, like if you're in HR, odds are you don't want to be cracking jokes all the time. That's not going to end well. And of course, anytime humor is added to the mix, I think one thing that has been proven and people have seen too is humor by committee is pretty much recipe for failure. You want to have a single voice dominate, and that gives you the right to do it. So there's some interesting points in there, but yeah, unfortunately, sorry to say that there'll be no book tour behind that. There was just it struck rock early in the digging process.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there is something to the whole idea of the Kindle singles and stuff. If you have something that's not going to be a book. Like I have one chunk that was from an earlier attempt at writing a marketing metrics book that, that it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The stuff I have like 15 different pieces. So what I'm going to end up doing is dividing it up into 15 Kindle singles. Like, look, here's your 99-cent, this or that, and just see how it does.
Yeah, that's a great way to throw it out there and just see if 5 pages of decent stuff for 99 cents. That's not a backbreaker at all. And if it gives somebody a recipe to fix some specific problem, I could see how it could take and go. And you bring a great point. The key is not to do 1 or 2 of them and see how they fly. You do 15 across the board, right, so that your odds of seeing if one hits, that's really what's going to prove to you whether it really works or not. So
exactly.
Good stuff there. Okay, so we've had the World Cup, of course, dominating news cycle and everything, mostly ignored on my behalf. I guess the only interesting news I saw was some fans landing modeling contracts thanks to the Monday Night Football inspired honey shot, which is huge. Anything on your radar make it through the filter of just entertainment?
The one thing what I thought was really interesting was that people there were a number of brands that were sort of taking pot shots at the Brazil versus Germany game, which admittedly was not the best showing in the world for Brazil. And a few people sagely pointed out Germany is the number 16 largest country in the world. Brazil is the number 5. So yes, there's nationalism, but if you're talking about brand equity and audience reach, you probably shouldn't. That's not good math. If you want to, piss one country off, pick the one that has fewer customers.
Yeah, right. That's it. That is part of the risk there. And of course, the other thing I had mentioned in the post somewhere was, maybe sportsmanship could enter into this. I mean, somebody always loses in every game. It's pretty much an 8-year-old that stomps around and waves the flag because eventually you're going to be on the other side of that. But that goes against a lot of TV time. So of course,
Exactly. It makes for poor media shots.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about conflict we need. That's where it all goes down. So
Yeah.
right,
I had Facebook retargeting. This is a relatively new feature. It came out last week. If you are looking at getting customers back to your website, they've offered 4 new retargeting options. You can retarget by ads anyone who's visited your website. You can target anyone who's visited just certain pages on your website. So if you have a landing page that's not performing, you can retarget just those folks. You can retarget people who have visited certain pages but not other pages, which is basically shopping cart abandonment. So if you know people are dropping up between steps 2 and 3, you can target just those folks with ads. And the fourth one, which I thought was really interesting, was you can target people who have not been back to your website in a certain amount of time. So if you got a mailing list and you need to reactivate that mailing list, or you need to reactivate some customers, that would be a great way to do it. And because all the stuff is using their tracking pixel and as using their retargeting stuff, it's going to not cost you a whole lot of money. I mean, you can probably get away with some of these campaigns are going to be like $50 a week campaigns.
that's cool. Yeah, that's very interesting. And of course, we're still. They've hinted in their previous statement that even giving you access to retarget over across to competitors or other properties is on the roadmap. We'll see if that actually makes it to the light of day, but something else to keep an eye on.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. Facebook will make you sad if you don't click on the ads.
Yeah, right. Exactly. God knows what'll come down the stream if you don't comply. That's your assimilation is inevitable. So resistance is futile. That's all right. Well, yes. So perhaps maybe next week a better week for Facebook. We'll see if we can't get over there. How about road tour? Have you got anything big going on?
I'm talking over some stuff right now. I've got like 3 or 4 different things that I'm working on for the fall. But the fall calendar is getting really full. As long as the necessary paperwork gets done, I'm gonna be on the road a lot this fall.
A lot of action. Okay, I've got Texie Talk, the trade show event planner event coming up in New York. So that's the next thing on my calendar. Would be traveling in the astonishingly hot weather to check out another event. But that's the life of the show.
Buy you some air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the AC for this time of year. Yeah, speaking of that, I'm actually very thankful here. I don't know, for some reason the past 2 days I've had brownouts during the day. So infrastructure not made for heavy AC load over here in the studio.
No, ISO New England has actually said if they don't get some of the new power plants they've got on the books up and running, they will have rolling blackouts in the Metro Boston area by 2016.
No kidding, just to get things. Well, hopefully the solar and wind power approach will accelerate a little bit.
I'll say you're out there in Western Mass. You could do some of that stuff on your property and probably no one would even notice.
Yeah, that would be. There's a good, probably 15 or 20 windmills within a 5-mile radius of me. So those have been picking up a lot of steam. But I don't know. It's a lot of politics and getting them on the grid. Like I see a lot of them not even running certain times a day. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can get personal ones. There's one. I said it's air something, Airstream, air something or other. But you can get a residential personal windmill that it just has to basically be above the tree line. And you hook it directly into your house's electrical system with a converter in the basement. So the one nice thing is you can push power back to the grid if you want to, and the grid has to pay you for it.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. It would be cool to have the zero power bill. That would be a fantastic
Yep,
problem.
and if this whole marketing thing doesn't work out, we can all become power producers and clean water producers.
Sell electricity, go
Yep,
green.
exactly. Sell electricity, use atmosphere condensers, pull humidity out of there, sell fresh water. Be a great industry.
Yeah, unfortunately, that may be the path of the future. Hopefully, we will solve more problems quicker than that, but perhaps we'll just be part of the solution. All right, that will do it for us for this week. So until next week, we'll catch you then, and enjoy the coffee.
Enjoy the coffee.